I, male 27, will start this off by saying my wedding is scheduled for April because my fiancée, female 25, has always dreamed of a spring wedding. And I really like the idea too. I have an older brother though, male 30, and last Saturday I was called over to my parents' house to talk about something, but they refused to tell me what until I got there. They then set me down with my brother and told me that my brother wants to use my wedding as the perfect day for him to propose to his girlfriend. I was instantly mad and told them absolutely not, but they ganged up on me. I ended up so enraged to the point that I, one man, somehow backed all three of them into a corner. I told them that if they want to do this, then not only will they all be uninvited, but I'll also cut off the financial support I've been giving monthly since they paid to have my golden child brother go through college by taking out a second mortgage. I landed a decently high-paying job and have been sending $500 to my parents monthly to help ease their mortgage. And I didn't ask for a stake in the ownership of their house either. It was entirely goodwill, and I can cut it off anytime. I left without speaking anything more to them, but my brother came to my home the next day to yell at me that I ruined his big chance because now our parents are siding with me and say they'll evict him if he tries to propose at my wedding. He said I was financially blackmailing our parents and that he just wanted a good chance to propose because he was afraid his girlfriend might leave him soon. I said that was his problem, not mine, because my wedding day is not about him. And if he tries to propose at my wedding, I will have him thrown out. That's not a maybe, but a definite. And I doubt his girlfriend would appreciate her proposal, followed up with him being tossed out by a bouncer. He yelled a few choice words at me, then went crying to our only surviving grandparent, our maternal grandmother. And she called to try and ream me over the phone. No surprise, but my brother heavily embellished the version of the story he told her. But she still sided with him after I gave her the real story. She tried to hold her ground, but the verbal backlash I ended up giving her left her crying. That got back to my parents, who are now pissed at me for taking things this far. But I told them I only went that far because I had to when they were all trying to get me to let my brother use my wedding as his springboard for a proposal. They ended up agreeing with me, but still stated they feel like I'm crass. And my brother showed up at my home again to scream at me that I'm an a-hole, and I hope I'm happy with myself for not allowing him the opportunity. I thought I was entirely in the right at first, but maybe I really did take it too far with my brother. So I thought I'd come here to ask for an impartial ruling. Am I the a-hole for everything I did and said to my brother and everyone else? Now the top comments. Not the a-hole. As a married woman, I don't understand why there has to be a specific setting to propose. Aside from that, if he's scared that you'll leave him soon, then why is he gonna propose? And it obviously isn't a serious relationship, and more importantly, why does he have to wait for your wedding? What's stopping him from asking her now or Valentine's or any other day? And if I were you, I'd make sure he is totally uninvited at this point, cause chances are he will still propose, or be too bitter, and he will try to get back at you on your wedding. Don't deal with the headache. Not the a-hole. After all the drama he has caused, do you really want him there? Every time you glance over and see him, you will be upset, distracted, and just waiting for him to pull some stupid stunt. It's supposed to be one of the happiest days of your life. It sure sounds like his presence will be more stress than it's worth, even if he is on his best behavior. Tell him he has already caused so much stress to you and your finance that he is no longer invited. You need to protect your bride and your wedding from any incidents, and be sure to have a couple buddies ready to escort him out. Update. My fiancée knows what my brother tried to do, and she's very angry about it. She's almost ready to have him uninvited if he pursues this any further. Also, I won't justify making my grandmother cry. Normally, I have a very mild temper. But when it comes to certain people like my brother, parents, and grandmother, I can easily get short with them because of all the past favoritism. My grandmother especially. She always sided with my brother and believed his lies no matter what he did. She's the biggest reason my parents favored my brother too. She kept trying to convince me over the phone to let my brother propose at my wedding that I ended up losing it on her. And for those wondering why I've been sending my parents money, well, about a year ago, they were on the verge of losing their house because of extra debt they took on paying for my brother's college 10 years ago. They were too prideful to ask me for help, but I didn't want them to end up losing their home. I personally don't want the house in the future, but I want my parents to be able to keep their home. We have a plan for me to continue payments till I'm 30, and I have sent them to a financial advisor to help them get things settled. But my lazy brother isn't helping. He only pays $300 a month for rent and doesn't contribute to utilities. Years ago, he also dropped out of the college my parents paid for, and they couldn't get the lost tuition money back. So they are finally starting to get angry with him themselves. New account because he deleted my main. So this might sound petty, but let me explain. In 2019, I could no longer work because of my physical disabilities. No company wanted to hire me for the past couple of years, and my husband said that it's better I just stay home and not worry about working. I agreed, and he's become the breadwinner. Then, it's like a switch that flipped because chores were 50-50, but after I lost my job, they became 100% on me. Keep in mind my physical disabilities I developed. His excuse for not doing anything to help is that I stay at home 24/7. I told him that's not fair, especially since I suffer from physical discomfort. He made a deal with me and promised that everything will be 50-50 once I start working again. I told him I would find a job, and he laughed and said, "Good luck." I remember this vividly because of the strange laugh that I never heard him laugh before. I started looking for a job again for months, but had no luck, till my friend's husband found me a potential job at a company that would have me work from home due to physical strains. I was so excited and felt like I'm capable again despite the struggle. They scheduled an interview with me, and when I told my husband, he looked red in the face, but said nothing. 2 days ago, I found out that my job interview got cancelled. I found out when my friend reached me out to ask why I did that, but I said I had no idea. I checked my email and found nothing because I didn't send anything to the company. My husband came home and admitted canceling the interview. I asked why, and he said that this job had lots of requirements and I didn't seem fit to be accepted there, so to spare me the heartache of being rejected, he just canceled the interview. I flipped out on him and told him he destroyed my one and only chance at landing a job. But he said he was just feeling concerned about my well-being. I told him he probably didn't want me to work because he didn't want to split house chores, and he seemed offended by that. He threw a fit about how unreasonable and selfish I was to even consider a job without speaking to him first. I told him I don't get involved in his work life. He called me horrible for accusing him of bad intention, then went out to meet his friends, probably to vent, because one of them told me my husband is looking out for me, but I was being cruel to him by yelling. He has been cold-shouldering me since then, deleted my social media accounts claiming that they're bad for my mental health because of the negative effect some of these platforms have. Am I the a-hole for yelling at him? Now the top comments. Not the a-hole. New account because he deleted my main. I just had to read this one line and knew this was not going to be you in the wrong. This man has extreme control issues. Run. He should be lifting you up and encouraging your growth and happiness, not beating you down when you try to do something that makes you happy. I hope you realize you deserve so much better. Not the a-hole, and in your place, I would be considering divorce. He has absolutely no right to make those kinds of decisions for you and canceling your interview. If he had concerns, he should have spoken to you about them, but recognize that the decision was ultimately yours. He should not have made the unilateral decision that the job wasn't right for you and cancel your interview. And I think you're perfectly right as to his reasons. He likes not having to do household chores, which should not be 100% on you, even without considering your disability. Even if you had no disability whatsoever, you should not be doing 100% of the household chores. Also, I suspect something even more sinister. A wife with a job gains a certain degree of independence, which means you might actually be capable of leaving once you finally get sick of the crap he's pulling. Also, he has no right to delete your social media accounts. Those are yours, and he has no business deciding whether you should be allowed to have them. This sounds like a systematic ploy to cut you off from the outside world in order to keep you dependent on him and unavailable to leave. It sounds like you're married to a control freak. I'm loath to give this kind of advice, but you need to speak to a divorce lawyer. My wife, Kate, and I got married about a year ago. It was a small ceremony with very few people in attendance. None of my family members, except my brother, were invited. Kate has a 5-year-old daughter from a previous relationship. When we first started, Kate, my family, but especially my mom, would make derogatory comments about how I shouldn't be with a single mother. My mom would say things like, "You shouldn't be raising another man's child," or "Kate is only using you for free child support." Those comments were extremely hurtful, and I made the decision to distance myself from most of them. Around Christmas time last year, my brother and his 2 young children died unexpectedly. The incident devastated my entire family, and we are still all processing this loss. Because of their death, I have begun to see my family more. To celebrate my late nephew's birthday, Kate invited my sister-in-law for a nice dinner. My sister-in-law, without our knowledge, brought my mom along. Kate, though surprised, didn't say anything to my sister-in-law or my mom. At first, the dinner was going well. Everyone was nice, the conversation was light and fun. At one point, my daughter woke up, and my wife and I knew that she wouldn't go back to sleep knowing her aunt was in the house. So we let her stay up with us. We let her watch some TV and play with her toys, and she was paying no attention to the grown-ups. My mom decides to pick my daughter to try and play with her. She tries crying and thrashing around, but my mom refuses to let go, muttering stuff about how she'll get over it. Kate essentially had to force my daughter out of my mother's hands in order to calm her down in a different room. Once everything was sorted, Kate came back out with my daughter, and my mom started yelling at her about how she was starting her granddaughter away from her grandmother and how she was poisoning her mind. I obviously got upset with her and told her that maybe it's because she doesn't deserve the title of grandmother. This only added fuel to the fire. My mom stormed out, taking my sister-in-law with me. She later sent me a lengthy message about how I shouldn't have said that considering recent events, the death of her 2 grandchildren. Now I feel extremely guilty. Now the top comments. Not the a-hole. I am so sorry for the loss of your brother and his children. Realize your daughter is only 5, but that is beyond old enough to not be picked up by some almost stranger who she quite likely knows didn't want anything to do with her before. Kids are not stupid. Then restrained her when she was making it clear she didn't want to be held. In my opinion, your mom is now willing to take the child she previously cast off and wanted nothing to do with, as she has no other options. And what will your mother say when your daughter does something to displease her? You aren't my real grandchild? Another concern is if you and Kate have a child together, your mom would again cast off your oldest child without a second thought to focus all her attention on the now golden grandchild who is her blood. You sound like a great dad. Please don't give in to misplaced guilt and guard your daughter's well-being against what would be a toxic relationship with your mother. Not the a-hole. 1, I'm so sorry for the loss you and your family faced. The grief can be overwhelming. There is a chance your mother now sees your stepdaughter differently since the tragedy, but that doesn't make her right or the way she handled it any better. Your mother's emotions on the child she once so easily forsake as another man's are not your responsibility. You have nothing to feel guilty for. Could you have said it differently? Sure. But was that grown-up woman throwing insults for no cause covering up her guilt in the situation being where it is? Absolutely. A few months ago, my, male 31, sister, female 29, announced that she was going to get married. The planning process took a while, but the date and venue were agreed on. Now, my sister has a baby, male 1-year-old, that just loves to cry. He cries all the time unless someone takes him outside for fresh air. So, a few days ago, the wedding started. Because I was out of town, I missed the night before the wedding, basically a get-together period for family members and a big party, but showed up for the ceremony and reception. The second I got there, my sister asked me to take the baby outside in order to calm him down. I agreed because the ceremony hadn't started yet, but she asked me to take the baby outside again a while later. When I asked why the baby didn't have a sitter, she said that they spent all the money on the ceremony and parties. I was kind of annoyed because I wanted to sit on the ceremony, but just about everyone jumped on me telling me to do my sister a favor and that it was her day. I asked her about when I was expected to take the baby out for fresh air, and she gave me this huge list of times that basically meant I missed out on the important parts. I wouldn't be there for the exchanging of vows, the reception, the aisle walk, the readings, the kiss, etc. I figured out that in total I would have about 30 minutes actually sitting inside, and the rest was just about the baby. When I pointed this out to her, she said someone would videotape it for me, but I wasn't convinced. I wanted to watch my sister reach a milestone, and that was what I came for. I told her that someone else could watch the baby for her, and that as her brother, I wanted to watch her wedding and not have to miss her getting married. Again, she told me to just do it. I was really mad, but tried not to show it on the outside. When I asked about the reception, she told me, "Oh, you'll have to miss out. Baby needs to be outside and has to be fed." That was the final straw, and when my mother was holding the baby, I slipped out and just left. The next day, I get a call from my sister, and she's screaming about how I ruined her wedding and how the baby wouldn't stop crying. I told her that I left because she treated me like a babysitter instead of a guest/family member, and said that it was her fault if she couldn't get a nanny or ask a friend to do it. Since then, I've been nuked with calls from family calling me selfish and telling me that I'm effectively disowned unless I apologize. I see no reason to. Am I the a-hole? Now the top comments. Not the a-hole. Why couldn't the rest of the family take turns taking the baby outside? I find it funny that they're calling you selfish when it doesn't seem like any of them volunteered to take turns, so it would be fair, and you at least got to witness some parts of the wedding. Not the a-hole. You were an invited guest and family, and they manipulated you to be a babysitter. The rest of the family were selfish enough to not offer any real help themselves, putting the responsibility solely on you and are now blaming you for ruining the wedding. What a bunch of a-holes. It might have been your sister's day, but it's also your sister's baby, and she and her husband should have taken their own responsibility, not forcefully shove it on you.